Hey, it's Paula Hines Lonergan. Time's up for me to be silent. And in this video, I wanted to talk about Oprah's special in connection to the Leaving Neverland documentary. Now, I still have not seen the actual documentary yet, Leaving Neverland, but I did watch a little bit about Oprah's special where she had the two alleged victims of Michael Jackson and the director. And in the audience, she had persons that were also abused, and then there was a specialist, abuse specialist, doctor, I guess he was, who had treated victims of childhood sexual abuse. But in watching Oprah's special, Oprah comes from a perspective, she was abused as a child, so she gets it, you know. But in her interviewing, I could really tell that she was trying to get to the bottom of, okay, for those that have not been abused, why did you make the choices, or why did you act in the way, or didn't act, or didn't speak up, Oprah says that in over 200 of her shows that she had when she had her television show, there over 200, she addressed the issue of sexual abuse. So you can see she has a passion about it, much as I have a passion about, the importance of not keeping the secret and working on healing. But in this video, I wanted to talk a little bit about denial, because in watching the alleged victims, both of them basically went through their childhood and into adulthood, kind of denying that it happened. Maybe they kind of knew it happened, but they obviously didn't recognize that it was something wrong as a child. But Oprah mentioned how children do not have the vocabulary to communicate their experience, or sometimes even recognize something is out of place. I mean, and if the families of these young boys, also were enamored with Michael Jackson, and allowed the boys to spend time with them, then I mean, it almost probably to the boys, in the boys' mind, they're like, oh, okay, this is the good thing, this is the right thing. And both of them say that Mr. Jackson said, this is our special love, this is our special relationship, this is how we, show our love for one another, and no doubt the children, just the young boys, didn't have any concept, like I said, that anything was wrong. But it's not till years later that they recognize that the effects that the abuse happened, and that it was abuse. Now, it's a little tricky, and Oprah says the same thing, that the use of abuse, gives the idea of black eye or broken limbs, or, things like that, or that there has to be violence involved. And see, and that's where the word abuse can be tricky. And I understood exactly what she meant about that, because basically the perpetrators groom the children. I was groomed, as a child, so it's like you kind of don't recognize, where a line has been crossed, or that a line has been crossed, so like in my case, I was abused, most of my childhood. I knew it happened, but I had dissociated from it, you know, and remained in a certain denial. Not that I, like I said, didn't know that it happened, but it was like I put it so far away, and I was in a place where it's like, okay, I'm not going to discuss this. And I, just like one of the victims in the Leaving Neverland Oprah special, said he thought he would go to the grave, with his secret. And I thought really I would too. I never had thoughts that I would tell my parents, or that I'd even be as open with it as I am now. But the thing of it is that, a lot of times a person can maintain a certain amount of denial. But in the case of the two alleged victims, they mentally and emotionally started to get ill. I mean, one of them said how he had one nervous breakdown, but after getting help and therapy for that, he still didn't mention what his experiences with Mr. Jackson. It was only after he had his second breakdown that he realized, oh my goodness, there must be a connection to what happened to me in my childhood, and to the distress that's happening to me now. Now, it's, the both of them said, I guess I can't remember which one went to court, which one of the alleged victims went to court. But I mean, basically, there's, Michael's a good man. They had great love for him. So there just wasn't any concept of that he was bad or that he was wrong or understanding of that. I mean, I guess until years later, but denial is not unusual. And in the book, The Courage to Heal, by Ellen Bass and Laura Davis, there's a chapter entitled Believing It Happened. And I wanted to just discuss a few of the points on page 91. The chapter starts off saying, it's quoting a person, and it says here, did it really happen? I'd like to tell you no. I'd like to deny it, but I just can't do that anymore. So this particular person, as quoted here, she'd love to have said it didn't happen. And I guess for the longest time, she was in denial until she could not deny it anymore. And now the reason that she got to that point is because she says, I've always had flashbacks. I've always seen bits and pieces of what happened. It was terrifying, but I didn't want to put it all together. I didn't want to know the story. It took me years to believe it happened. Now, this is an actual survivor, who's discussing her experience. It's like you want to stay in denial because denial is safe. Denial doesn't force you to look at the experience and subsequently experience the pain, behind what happened. But with most people, with many people, it comes to a time when in order to heal, from the abuse that you experience, that you need to acknowledge it. The Courage to Heal book, it continues here. It says, when you've spent your life denying the reality of your abuse, when you don't want it to be true, it can be exceedingly difficult to hold on to the validity of your experience or even believe in your right to search for the truth of your past. And now this is very, very thought-provoking, because it's like, thinking about your life experiences can be a challenge. And if you choose to, disclose it to other people, that adds another layer. And in disclosing it to other people, the Courage to Heal book says, corroboration can make it easier to accept the truth. In other words, if a person says, oh my goodness, I remember this and I remember that, and I believe you, that helps a person to, navigate, through the history, through the past, through the experience, and then subsequently work on their healing. However, like in, Leaving Neverland, the two accused victims said it was Michael and him, in the room. And, it was interesting because I guess in one particular experience or one day, one of the mothers knocked on Michael Jackson's room. And Michael Jackson's thought was, oh my goodness, I'm sorry, I didn't know the door was locked. And when the mother walked in, the boy was fully clothed, and there weren't any, probably physical signs that anything, had happened. He didn't have black eyes. He didn't have broken ribs, it was, that's what makes abuse so tricky, because it doesn't always include violence. And a lot of times it's disguised as, this is our love. This is our special time. This is the way we show love to one another. And once again, children do not have the ability to fully comprehend, what's going on many times. The book, The Courage to Heal, discusses a little bit more on the issue of denial. It says, denial gives you respite when you cannot bear to align yourself with the small wounded child for another minute. It allows you to go to work, to make breakfast for your kids. It's a survival skill that enables you to set a pace you can handle. So, in staying in denial, once again, you're not having to acknowledge the pain, and you're able to kind of live life when you put it to the side. So the two alleged victims lived their life, with with, okay, probably acknowledgement that, something happened, but it wasn't in the forefront of their mind and thinking. So they were able to, I guess, have their careers and ultimately have their children. But I mean, what happens is there's certain things in a person's life or experience that shifts, their thinking and their emotions and their memories. In the case of both of the two alleged victims, having sons is what had an impact on them, and it really forced them in a way to, look at what happened, in the past and to seek out healing. In the book, The Courage to Heal, it continues. It says, moving in and out of denial is a natural part of the healing process. I mean, so for persons that, maybe remember that they were abused, have put it to the side, and are not sure it happened, or not, don't have the clarity, and perhaps don't get the corroboration. I mean, the thing of it is that, you as the survivor, as a person that was abused, you're the only one who can basically dig deep, and reach down and, find that truth, but it's normal to say, oh, it did happen, it didn't happen. And I know I went through that. I'm like, oh my goodness, did this really happen? And I'm having, flashbacks of certain things. And I'm like, no, I don't want to believe it happened. There's certain instances where, things in connection to my uncle that is like, I don't want to believe it happened. It's like, oh, and then there's the how could it and how could I, and I mean, so it just gets very, very complicated. And if you haven't been abused, like I said earlier, be thankful and be grateful, because it's one of the most, and I use this word, egregious things that an adult can do to a child, and it has lasting effects. But as the two alleged victims, say, they're obviously are very forward and have come out, with, their truth, you know, and I guess the advantage of that is they can go through their own healing, but it also opens up dialogue. And of course there's going to be fans and family of Michael Jackson. He was so wonderful. He was so good. I mean, and the alleged victims don't deny their love that they had for Michael Jackson, that he was a good person, he was extremely talented, but all of that does not mean that Michael Jackson could not have done this. That's the thing. I mean, you can't, I mean, it's easy to get on the bandwagon of, oh, they're trying to throw him down, they're trying to put him down, or he's dead, all that's good, well, and fine, but it's a crime. It's a crime against a child that has repercussions into adulthood. So if you, or if a person desires to speak their truth in order to heal, I mean, I guess anybody can be mad at anything in the world, but for those who are supportive or desire to support those who have been abused, then don't jump on that bandwagon and don't assume it doesn't happen. It's easier in life to think, oh, he couldn't have done that, he was a teacher, he couldn't have done that, he was a priest, he couldn't have done that, he was a good person, she couldn't have done that, because she's a mother, I mean, the world is full of people in all kind of careers, all kind of stages in life, all kind of upbringing. The thing of it is 1 out of 6 boys will be sexually abused in their life, 1 out of 4, and there's people committing these atrocities. So the thing of it is like, you want to say it doesn't happen, but it does. And coming from the perspective of a woman who was abused as a child, I get it, and I want to say to other people that have been abused as children that you're not alone, and that with all the criticism and not believing, that you may experience, there are people who can truly empathize and sympathize with your experience and are cheering for you in your healing, as I am constantly working on my own healing. Anyways, did you see Oprah's special? Did you see the actual documentary, Leaving Neverland? Like I said, I haven't seen the documentary yet, and I haven't finished watching Oprah's special, but these are my commentary, my thoughts in connection to what I've watched so far. I'm going to continue to watch Oprah's special. I'm so grateful that she is speaking. Like I said, it's easy to say, oh, they're lying, they want money, and granted, in life that does happen. There are people who are like that, but don't deny that victims don't exist. They're out there. Anyways, my name's Paula Hines Lonergan. Time's up for me to be silent. That's my email address too, timesupforsilence@gmail.com. Feel free to drop me an email or put in notes in the comments section. What are your thoughts? Do you come from the perspective of, being an outsider, not understanding and thinking that the alleged victims are liars? Or do you come from the perspective of, I get their story? Anyways, drop me a note. Thanks.